This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me, as usual, are Richard Hawes.
Hello, everyone.
And Stephen Lockridge.
Hello.
This week, we have 7 films to cover. We're going to kick off with Rust, starring Alec Baldwin. Then we have Final Recovery. After that, we have our first of 2 Asylum films called 24 Hours to D-Day. Then we have John Fu. You might remember him from the TV series Rush Hour in Last Resort. And then God's Soldier. Can't wait to talk about that one. A Woman Scorned is next, and we're going to wind up with our other Asylum film of the week, Shark Warning. Our short shot is Logan the Wolf, and our DTV throwback is The Devil Conspiracy. So, without further ado, let's crack on. Our first film then is Rust. An orphaned boy of 13 left to fend for himself and his younger brother in 1980s Wyoming is sentenced to hang for the accidental killing of a local rancher. His estranged grandfather breaks him out of jail and they go on the run to Mexico. Okay, Steve. So, unfortunately, this film is infamous for the tragic death of the film's cinematographer, who there was a serious cock-up during the making of the film, where either live ammo or something akin to live ammo was used in a prop gun. Shades of what happened to Brandon Lee on the set of The Crow back in the 90s. Which is a shame. And I must admit, when all this was going on, and I was thinking, right, Alec Baldwin in a Western, and I just pictured pure DTV, because the thing is with Westerns, unless you're Kevin Costner, you're DTV, and even him, trying to get Horizon released, part 2, trying to get part 2 of that release is proving like a serious hill for him at the time. So, as a genre, I was thinking this is going to be a cheap thing. We've seen loads of sort of cheap Westerns coming out in the last few years. However, what we actually do get here is something a bit more sort of prestigious. It's 2 hours, 20 minutes long for a start. And I think as soon as the film starts, that it's aiming for prestige, because we get these very artfully shot establishing images, of like a weather vane and things like this, or a barn, the wind rustling through the grass, all this sort of stuff, building up an image of Wyoming. And I have to say, the sort of the 1980s or 1880s frontier, it's a very windy place. It's a very, very windy place. You can certainly get that. But there's a lot of detail here. It's very sort of it's great production values throughout this film. There's not really a lot of story to it, but we do get a lot of incident. There's there's a lot of confrontations and this sort of thing. There's a very funny scene towards the end where all of these bounty hunters sort of like come down to the same town or in the same saloon at the same time, and it's like a very tense sort of standoff as to who's going to make the first move so they can get try and grab this boy. It's quite amusing. So a lot going on. Very prestigious looking film. What did you make of it?
To be honest, yeah, I agree with the prestige and the look of the film, and even the performances are great. It's just, to me, it was just too long and
Hmm.
too drawn out. It's the same thing. They'll travel for a bit, bump into someone who knows who they are, kill them, or
Hmm.
disable, or run away. You know what I mean? As soon as it
Yes.
started, I knew what was coming.
Hmm.
I knew how it was going to end. I knew, it's one of them. It's good. It's done well, but I just think it's far too long. I mean, like all the stuff with the preacher.
Hmm.
There's like a 10-minute scene where he's like worming his way into this woman's house and stuff like that, and it doesn't really need it as far as I'm concerned. Stuff like that.
Yep.
If they'd have trimmed it down to a good 90 minutes, 100 minutes, I think it would have been a lot more impactful.
Yeah.
I just think it drags out a bit too much. But like I say, it's shot well. It looks great. And this is the thing that confuses me a bit, because the issue was apparently that there was no money for the production, and
Hmm.
that's how it all started, and unfortunately went into the tragedy that happened. And I don't know how they must have been putting everything into the
Yeah.
into
Uh,
the, into the movie itself.
certainly doesn't. It certainly doesn't look like they skimped on anything. But behind the
No,
scenes, from the sounds of it, you
yeah,
know, the union workers who would have handled, or would have helped the armory
mm,
person, that they had walked off set days beforehand. They got replaced by non-union guys. Um, yeah, which was certainly
it definitely consider a
it
factor.
contributed to it. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, they had to stop production at one point, and because there was a trial and everything.
mm,
Mr. Baldwin was found not guilty, of manslaughter. I
yeah,
think that's a fair judgment. I mean, how was he supposed to know,
yeah,
basically, that somebody handed him a gun with real bullets in it? Yeah, it's very, very shocking that it can still happen. But there you go. But I didn't. Did I enjoy it? I liked it. Is
yeah,
what certainly. The there are sort of amusing scenes, like the one where they get accosted by the Indians, the
hmm,
Native Americans. Um, and yeah, that's a sort of like trade his rifle for
yeah,
one of the horses. But yeah, I do agree. It's a bit sort of like wash, rinse, repeat at
yeah,
times, which is a shame. As you say, I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen Horizon. Could we say the
mm,
same thing about that? Um, but certainly from the look of the film, I would say, Alec Baldwin and the director, his name is something
uh,
Sousa. Um, you know, they,
Joel,
they, they, yeah, Joel, is it Joel's
Joel
Joel
Souza.
Sousa? Yeah. Definitely giving Kevin Costner a run for his money, I
Mm,
think. Outside of what Costner's been doing, either with series like 1883, or the Horizon movies. No
yeah,
one's doing anything like this at all. So yeah, maybe we are seeing a revival of the Western. Uh, Time
We've
will
got one.
tell.
We've got one with Pierce Brosnan and Samuel L. Jackson
Ah,
coming up.
yeah,
mm,
that looks good. Yeah, I've seen the trailer for that. I do like the
That's
look of
another
that.
one to be straight to video, as far as I'm
Yeah,
aware.
but yeah, good. I'm glad this sort of, we're getting some decent name actors sort of appearing in these things as well. Cool. How are you going to score it, Steve?
I'll give it a 6.
Hmm. I'm going one higher. I was
Hmm.
pleasantly surprised with this. I'm going with a 7. So there you have a 6 and a 7 for Rust. Go check it out. Our next film is Final Recovery. When Rodney winds up in the Sage treatment facility and in the care of the twisted nanny Lou, his drive to do better for his family and new friends lead him to more trouble when he rebels against his ornery captor. Bit of an interesting one, this, Steve. Not entirely successful, but at least it's trying to do something a little bit different in that, in what it's presenting. For my money, I wish it had gone more genre than social commentary. It takes a long time for the sort of the genre bits to sort of kick in. And what we do get is a lot of social commentary about, what it is to be down and out, what it is to be, a patient or an inmate in one of these facilities, and the sort of cyclical nature of it. The fact that this clinic is taking money from the state to look after sort of drug addicts and things, but then kind of keeping them addicted so that they end up sort of coming back into the system. So there's this sort of cyclical nature of what's coming. And then we get our sort of main protagonist, Rodney, who finally, after being around this sort of system a few times, he finally starts to wise up and wants to do something better for his put upon, I want to say, ex-wife. I don't think they're quite still married. I think the performances are very shrill. And I don't know, it's this sort of single location kind of thing going on. And the short performances and it's taking ages for it to sort of get around to sort of saying, oh yeah, there's something else going on, which is kind of saves for the last sort of 20 minutes. But at the same time, I mean, I've covered quite a bit of the director's work with written reviews. In fact, I did one just last week. He did a biopic of a woman who managed to get her husband sent away for domestic abuse. It was quite an interesting one. But yeah, this is a bit different again. I don't know if you spotted Richard Tyson in the cast.
Yeah.
It's interesting because he was in this other the last one as well, where he played the sort of court judge, and he's definitely sort of in his character actor mode now. He's playing these characters and he does sort of disappear into them. You wouldn't know. Oh shit, that was Richard Tyson. You'd have to look it up basically, which is interesting. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it was all right. Like you say, when it starts, I mean, the first scene, it's a bit, the acting's a bit ropey and the effects are a bit ropey, and we don't, the money's not going to be there, shall we say? And I think it does way too heavy on the, like you say, the social commentary. The genre comes in far too late. You've got the inkling with the nanny, whatever she's called. Nanny Lou, whatever.
I think it also takes a long time to sort of join the dots between the prologue and what's actually happening in the film, because it takes a long time to realize who that little girl is, kind of thing. It
does. But yeah, it's all right. I mean, it's one of them. I'm surprised that it didn't go like full genre a bit earlier. It does take a hell of a long time to get there, and it seems a bit funny. Not funny, but
peculiar.
Yeah, the mashup doesn't work, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it's too serious at the beginning, and then it goes all balls to the wall, and you're like, it's not what it should be. It's like you couldn't decide which way you wanted to go with it.
Yeah.
It's like okay, social commentary will be nice and serious, and then we'll just go balls to the wall, and it doesn't work.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I have to agree. Unfortunately, I mean, yeah, it would have been nicer if they'd made more of a deal of like when people
Sorry.
disappeared.
Yeah.
That might have kicked things in a bit quicker. But it's like, oh, where's such and such? Oh yeah, no, she's left now. She's
Mm.
that's it. You don't have to worry about it. It's annoying. Yeah. On the one hand, it kind of wants its cake and eat it too, doesn't it? So we
Yeah.
have this sort of damning portrayal of this source, this system, and how it feeds off the state and doesn't actually sort of solve anything.
Mm.
And especially when she's basic, the person running it is getting people to basically peddle her drugs as well to sort of get more people addicted. So then they have to come into the
Yeah.
clinic and all this sort of stuff going on. But yeah, it needed that other element, and it needed to bring it in earlier, I think. So on that
Yeah.
basis, what are you going to score it?
I think I'll give it a 5.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I have to agree with you. Yeah, this is definitely a 5 out of 10. It's solid enough. I think the performances are a little bit shrill at times, especially Rodney's family. I mean, yeah, they have good reason to be
Yeah.
shrill at him, I guess, but it's just one downer after another, unfortunately. So there you go. 2 5s then for Final Recovery. Go check it out. Our next film is 24 Hours to D-Day. A squad of American paratroopers are dropped behind enemy lines in Nazi-occupied France to prepare a signal beacon to guide Allied forces in preparation for D-Day. Okay, so this is the latest Asylum World War II movie. I'm pretty sure they've done quite a few of these over the years. I'm pretty sure we've covered a few as well.
Mm.
So this is pretty straightforward for the most part. It is, as it says, yeah, we got paratroopers kicked out of an aeroplane. The idea is that they go to this village to set up a beacon so the radars can pick it up, and they'll sort of bring in the bombers and the other paratroopers. Things go wrong, obviously. They end up not where they're supposed to be, and they have to sort of trek on foot, avoiding patrols and all the rest of it. But there's Germans after them, because one of the guys gets caught in a tree. So that the Germans know that they're coming or they're in the area. There's a few little incidents and things, and we sort of do cut back to Eric Roberts as an American general in the in a bunker in I don't know if he's supposed to be in Washington or in London, but every now and again he gets to comment on what's going on. And also we get these other sides because the film is kind of being narrated by one of the soldiers. So we get this map coming up every now and again, sort of showing us where the Germans are and where our heroes are. It's a bit like the map in Indiana Jones kind of thing, so just cutting corners so you don't have to sort of, so it doesn't turn into Lord of the Rings. Basically, it's okay if you like this sort of thing. We've seen better than this for sure. Do you remember the one about the gold where they come across a guy who's uh he's is he hiding the gold, or he's melting down the gold for the for the Germans or something? And yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Sort of stuff like that. But for Asylum, this is okay for sure. They know what they're doing. There's some decent, they got decent production values. They got uniforms. They got a couple of vehicles. They managed to do some CGI planes, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's a typical Asylum World War II movie, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And on that basis, I'm scoring this a 6 out of 10. So if you're an Asylum fan, go check it out. Our next film is Last Resort. A former Special Forces soldier becomes a one-man army when his wife and daughter are taken hostage during a bank robbery. What that doesn't say is that this former Special Forces soldier is also the laziest deadbeat dad going. He's glued to the couch watching cartoons. His wife is like, divorce papers, this sort of thing. She goes shopping with her daughter, end up in this bank, which then a whole team of mercenaries descend on it because somebody has left a briefcase in one of the what do you call them? One of those little personal safe things.
Oh, safe deposit box.
Yeah, that's it. Deposit box. That's what I'm talking about. So naturally, this sort of gets him off his couch. He goes down. He butts heads with the local police. It's set in Thailand, I think. Thailand or Indonesia, one of the two. And he goes into the bank basically and starts knocking off these mercenaries. The action is very good. It is of a very high standard. John Fu is very good in this. There's even a scene where they do like a Hans Gruber, where one of the guys pretends to be one of the hostages who's escaped, and then you have a big fight, and it sort of turns into Chekhov's elevator shaft. Because all through the fight there's this elevator shaft with the doors open, so you're thinking, well, obviously it's going to get used, you know. But yeah, it's very, very solid. There is a funny scene with the daughter because she's quite young, and she's like goes to the head guy, the head mercenary, sort of going, "My daddy's gonna come here and he's gonna rescue me and he's gonna kill you." And he's like, "Oh yeah, well who's your dad?" She goes like, "Michael Smith or whatever." And you see the color drain from his face. He's like, "What? Mike? No, not him." Because he knows who he is. He's a bad man. He's your dad. He's like, "Oh my god, he's a monster."
It's like that Casey Ryback scene
Yeah,
in
exactly.
in
Oh no, he was our instructor at Fort Bragg.
Casey Ryback.
Yeah.
Casey Ryback's on the train.
Exactly. So
is
it's that sort of thing. But it really
it is a
like,
Die Hard ripoff, is it? It's basically Die Hard.
It is a Die Hard ripoff. That is basically what it is. There's a lot of killing, as Leonardo DiCaprio said in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
See, I thought with the title "Last Resort," it was going to be set at a resort. I thought that's what it was.
No, it's literally he is the last resort. But I mean, there is an interesting thing at the beginning as well. It's sort of about his character. Like I said, he's a complete deadbeat dad. He's been deactivated or whatever from his decommissioned from being a soldier basically.
Yeah.
And he's just like completely listless, as he's leaving the house, you see his motorbike and it's in bits, there's like bits of it on the ground and tools and stuff. And then he walks past his pickup truck and it's the same thing, the hood's open. He's been tinkering with it, but then got bored and just, I can't be asked to do anything. I just want to sort of watch cartoons, that sort of shit. So it's an interesting sort of thing where you sort of see him just, he is just totally burnt out, but it takes like the threat of his wife and daughter being murdered to actually sort of motivate him and get him into doing something. But yeah, it's a solid enough film. Go on.
Do you think that's why? Because it's a long film. It's like nearly 2 hours long.
Nearly 2 hours, yeah.
Because it's dealing with that deadbeat damn drama redemption kind of plot line. Do they try and is that why it's so long?
No, not really. No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, we do get this opening bit which explains how the briefcase got into the bank, and we do get asides to whoever is in control. But there is a lot of sort of back and forth with hostage negotiators and things like this going on. Yeah, no, it is unfortunately a bit too long for this sort of thing. The other thing I'll say as well is that this bank, the first couple of floors are basically, a bank. The rest of the building is a construction site, which is another sort of like nod to Die Hard, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's enjoyable. I think characters speaking in English and I want to say Thai or Indonesian as well. Yeah. But yeah, it's a solid film. Good choreography. John Fu puts in a lot of work, I have to say. But that fight with the guy who pretends to be one of the hostages is the highlight from the fight point of view. Lots of CGI bullet squibs, I guess, but I think that's part of the course these days.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But yeah, there seems to be a lot of bad guys to be killed. A lot. But anyway, yeah, it's a solid film. Not quite a 7, I think, because there is a lot of repetition. But I will give it a 6 out of 10. Now, this film is directed by a guy called Jean-Marc Mineo, who's French. And he also directed our next film, which is God's Soldier. So let's give the synopsis for God's Soldier. It is: an orphan child with a price on her head seeks refuge in a chapel from a rogue CIA agent and his hand-picked kill team. Now, Rich, the thing about this film, these are quite different films, I have to say. But I did enjoy both of them. I will say that up front. I did enjoy God Soldier a lot. However, that first 15 minutes or so are the worst edited I've seen for a long time. It's not so much the editing of the scenes themselves, it's the order they're in. It is really, really weird, the structure of that opening bit. And I would go as far to say it's mostly superfluous. A lot of it could have hit the cutting room floor, no problem at all. But then we get this John Wick moment. It's literally John Wick is what they go for.
Literally the same thing.
It is literally.
They're shameless about it. They are.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, somebody was bound to do it at some point, but I thought it was hilarious because I just didn't expect it. I didn't expect her to survive what happens to her, at that point or just before it. I thought that was, that's an interesting thing to happen. And then she John Wicks them, and it becomes a completely different film at that point. And it becomes a much more enjoyable film from that point on because the actress, which is Caroline Carlson, I thought she was great, in that particular role. I thought she absolutely nailed it. And we do get, we get that scene at the beginning with the guy, the characters all masked up and everything, killing all these bad guys in a very strange part of London. And then that character just disappears, completely disappears out of the film until the John Wick moment, and then you sort of go, "What?" which is great. And then it becomes a much more enjoyable film after that. I did enjoy it. Rich, what did you make of God's Soldier?
I liked it overall. I was trying to work out where it was made, because on the credits it says it's an American. I mean, on the IMDb it says it's an American production, but it's got a very English as a second language kind of feel to it, a bit like
Yes.
that MR9 film we watched.
Mhm.
And there's character. I mean, it's clearly made in Thailand,
Yeah.
and there's Thai actors speaking English awkwardly. Quite bad performances. So it's in that opening part that you were talking about. There's all the stuff with the virus and the girl. Oh, I've pricked my finger with the needle. Oh no, what are we gonna do? It's really really awkwardly done, and that's kind of the background of the baby and the girl, and she's got the it's that quite common theme of the girl has the antidote within her kind of thing.
Yep.
And so the bad guys want to get hold of her. And I don't know if that was the plot of Logan or something, but it was definitely used in Steve Seagal's The Patriot, and I think it's been in a few other places as well. But yeah, basically it's a bad pharmaceutical company who want to get hold of this girl because they want to be able to deal with virus. It's all about Ebola and stuff, but COVID's hanging over this whole thing. It's sort of like there's going to be another outbreak, what do they call it, pandemic. There's going to be a pandemic, and we want to profit off it, basically. So that's motivating the bad guys, and they send in William Baldwin, second Baldwin movie of the week, and but William Baldwin is even more like his brother Alec than he ever was before. He was quite distinctive when he was younger, but now he looks and sounds basically exactly like Alec Baldwin. And I thought, just to dwell on that for a minute, I thought William Baldwin was just going to kind of turn up here and there, and little scenes or whatever. But no, he's in the whole movie. He's constantly coming in and out. You get your money's worth with Baldwin here. But yeah, the movie's got this weird. It feels like it was a film. I mean, the director's French, but he's clearly made films in English before. Like you were saying, say The Last Resort, and he did a previous film with John Fu, and he's done a whole bunch of other stuff as well. But it does have this awkwardness that kind of moves away, like you say, after maybe the first act. It sort of sorts itself out a bit, but it's still got this unusual feel to it, but not in a comically bad way. So it's quite engaging. There's William Baldwin's got this sort of he leads this sort of team of trained assassins, and he picks one called Sebastian, which is who was a girl actually, but I've never heard of a girl called Sebastian before. But maybe that's the thing. But she's a psycho. She's a really interesting character. And there's just this Ukrainian guy as well, who's not as interesting. He's a big tough guy, but he's fine. But Sebastian's kind of the scene sealer, kind of and this is where sort of the John Wick elements are kind of coming in, and then it's kind of leading up to the getting hold of the weapons cache, and but the character I don't think she actually has a name until later in the film, but they reveal it towards the end what her name is. But the nun, who's running the orphanage and stuff, played by Carolina Colson. She's they do this kind of Long Kiss Goodnight Charlie Baltimore thing kind of with her. So they basically completely, she sort of remembers who. She seems like there's tints of it throughout the film, like she's trying to suppress. Like there's a bit where she's praying and she's like cutting herself or whatever with the holding the cross or whatever. She's trying to suppress something within her, and then later she just sort of unleashes it, and she's like, I think we've seen another character like it recently, but basically she's quite psychotic. She really kind of enjoys the killing, and she's like going off and just really having having a hell of a time, but she's like she's the protector. It's a protector, protecting the girl kind of thing. And I thought it was quite funny. It's too long because I think it's got like 2 hours.
Again, it's close, getting close to 2 hours again. Yeah,
it's too long. David Ismalone, who's the choreographer,
he did both.
He was the choreographer for that and say previous films that they've done. The whole thing with the trained young girls that's introduced in the beginning and sort of pays off as the film concludes. I was thinking of films like Naked Weapon with that again, or like the Kurt Russell film Soldier, where they got these kids and they train them to be like killing machines, and so she's grown up. These characters grown up like that. So I think it's pulling in influences from different places, and I think for the most part it does work. I mean, going into it, title like God's Soldier, I thought it might be like a Christian movie or something, but that's dispelled very quickly because there's some like quite hard language and violence, I think, and and some of the violence is really violent at times. I think considering it's basically an action movie featuring a cast, don't really the lead actress, she's not really done action before. I could see this as like, I equate it to maybe some of the Kate Beckinsale movies we've had recently, like Jolt and Canary Black, although I haven't seen Canary Black, but Underworld, Underworld. So I think of it like if they'd had a bigger budget, it could have been like one of those movies.
Sure.
Kind of got its own feel, and because it's set in or made in Thailand, I think it's set in a couple of different places, but there's definitely a huge Thai contingent. Because remember the tattooed face guy who we saw in that by Sal movie a few weeks ago?
That's right. Yeah, he turns up in this.
He's back as one. Oh, here's the other thing. Scenes in Thai or French that are not subtitled. On the screener, if you watched it without the subtitles on, there were no subtitles for the foreign language scenes. But if you put the subtitles on, they're closed captions, so they're like automatically generated. And for a large part of the English language scenes, they're nonsense. Right? They don't fit. They don't match up with what they're saying. But
so just like phonetic.
Yeah, well, it's like it's trying to interpret what they're saying, and it's subtitles. So that's their closed caption thing, unreliable and untested. People haven't written them; they've just automatically tried to work it out. But the exception to that is some of the foreign language scenes where the foreign languages, some of the foreign language scenes at least, when I was watching it, were subtitled. What did have these closed caption sort of subtitles, and they did actually make sense. So you had to have. I mean, unless your experience watching it was different to me, but I had to have the subtitles on to be able to make sure some of those scenes made sense. Although there was a scene where they're talking on where the girl is on a bus with another woman, they're having a conversation. This ends up being quite an important point, but I couldn't get any subtitle for what they were saying. I didn't really understand. That was all gobbledygook a bit when I was watching it. Some of the other scenes were absolutely fine. And I was like, yeah, okay, I know what's going on. But then it was like, I was watching it, I was thinking, hang on a minute, I shouldn't have to turn on the subtitles. They should be burned in or something. So hopefully when people are watching this at home on streaming platforms or whatever, that will all have been sorted. But
fingers crossed.
It's like, what, 6 scenes like that, 6 quite short scenes with bits, and it's just like, well, I don't know what he's saying. I don't know what's going on. But criticisms are few, I'd say. I thought overall I quite liked it.
I did. I those opening scenes, I was worried that we're going to end up with, something like the Kane conspiracy or Diamond Cartel or something.
That Russian model film that we watched.
Oh yeah, that sort of thing.
Stuff like that, yeah. And BRI, do you remember BRI, the British one?
Yes, yeah.
I was definitely in BRI vibes in the early part of this, with all the graphics and stuff.
Because what was interesting as well is, so Caroline's character in this, because there was no build up to her character, I just thought she was just another NPC. Basically, it's another one that's sort of Stephen Baldwin's character is going to kill off just because he's evil, kind of thing. I was really surprised when she continued to be in the film, and then she does the John Wick thing, which was great. So I couldn't believe it when she was doing the John Wick thing. I thought, oh my god!
What if Julie Andrews in The Sound of Music suddenly pulled out a gun and started killing all the Nazis?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, how are you going to score this one, Rich?
I'm gonna give it a. I'm torn. I think a couple of the slight issues knock it down from a 7, so I'm going to say 6.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to see a shorter version of this with that first sort of 15 minutes or so sort of tidied up, because it's a bit of a joke. But yeah, it's not many films which surprise me, which just zing when they should zang or whatever. I was really surprised the way this film developed. But yeah, it is a 6 for sure. So 2 6s for God's Soldier. Go check it out. Our next film is A Woman Scorned. A woman takes revenge on the men that murdered her sister in cold blood, hunting them down one by one in a bloody massacre. Okay, so beware booking Airbnbs in rural Ireland, I think is the takeaway from this one, Steve.
Yeah.
We have 2 youngish women. One of them is just been through the ringer, basically, with an abusive husband, may have shot him.
Yeah.
From the looks of it. And is now sort of like, after therapy and all sorts, is looking forward to a nice getaway with a younger sister. And they've rented this cottage in Ireland. But unfortunately, there's a bunch of lads who spot them, decide to have a bit of fun because they've been doing a I Spit on Your Grave marathon probably.
Yeah.
And sort of break in. The older of the 2 sisters happens to be out getting some booze. The other one manages to injure one of the guys and ends up getting shot for a trouble. So that is the setup. I do like this. I think it is well made. It's a decent sort of revenge, film, quite realistic in the way that sort of the woman behaves. But there is a moment after she sort of kills the guy in the house when she sort of goes, she turns into Stallone for a moment, and sort of goes, "I'm coming for you," or something along those sort of lines. Which I thought was terrible, but other than that, I did like this a lot. Lots of killing, basically. Lots of catharsis. The people dying definitely deserve it. So that's all fun. Yeah, it's a solid little film. This one. What did you make of it?
Yeah, totally agree. It's the, like you say, Spit on Your Grave been done 50,000 million times before, but yeah, it's enjoyable. The characters are likable. Well, the girls are, should I say? The blokes are all just scum and twats, basically. But no, I thought it was done well. I mean, the only bit that got me, I mean, obviously it's one of them where you won't have the film, but the sister gets, back straight away. Boom, God. But then, with the other one, they tie her up to the bed and stuff like that. And, obviously it's to prolong it, but yeah, I thought it was actually really, really decent, this one.
It has, it's got good production values. Everyone's doing a good job in front of the camera. yeah, it works pretty well. I mean, the bit where she gets tied up is quite amusing because, you know, it reminded me a bit of the A-Team. It's like, well, what should we do with them? Well, let's look them up in that tool shed.
Yeah.
You know, whereas this one, it's like, well, lock her up in the bedroom, but don't bother searching any of the drawers in case there's anything in there which might help her.
Yeah.
But then, these guys are dicks, so
Yeah.
they probably didn't even think, they weren't thinking that far ahead. That's for sure.
No.
Yeah, no, it's a solid little film. This one, I must admit. It was a surprise. Again, I wasn't sure what we're going to get out of it, but especially with the opening sort of prologue bit, because that seemed to be. It seemed to be a trailer for something that was going to happen. It felt like in media res, but in fact, it was actually just her memories of what had actually happened. So, it doesn't sort of dwell on it too much. We do get like her sister's voice sort of giving her motivational little whispers in the ear and that as she goes. But yeah, it's fun. Good gory little movie. Quite enjoyed it. So this was directed by a couple, wasn't it? Becca Hirani and Michael Hode, I think. Yeah. And just sort of having a quick look to see what else they've been involved in. I'm pretty sure
Michael Hode did Shoguns of Gym Box, which was a short film we watched at Flying Spirit. Shoguns of Gym Box. He works on.
Oh yeah, that was good. Yeah, that was a good one. That was.
And Becca Harani, she's been, she's done a whole bunch of stuff, but she's also known as Rebecca J. Matthews, which I didn't realize until today because I've seen a lot of I'm familiar with a lot of the films that Rebecca J. Matthews has directed, and I didn't realize it was the same person. So I think of Becca Harani as an actress, but yeah, she's actress, producer, director. She's done whole tons of stuff. She's got another pseudonym as well. I think Becky. Something. So yeah, I was really gutted not to get a chance to see this one myself, to be honest, because I was quite. There was another film of a similar kind of thing called I Am Rage, which I wanted to watch as well. That came out a year or two ago, I think. But yeah, so I'm pleased to hear it's good. I do definitely want to check it out.
Yeah, definitely do. Okay, Steve, what are you going to score it?
I'll give it a 7.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, 2 7s for A Woman Scorned. Go check it out. Our last main review is Shark Warning. 2 decades after a shark killed his brother, a man returns to his hometown. But when the shark resurfaces and claims more victims, he forms alliances to hunt down and eliminate the predator once and for all. This is our other Asylum movie, guys. And I will watch any Asylum movie they throw at us. Basically, I think even though their hit rate is probably about 50-50, I think there are some which are pretty decent and there are some which are pretty terrible. This one fits into the pretty terrible pile. And unfortunately, when you're doing a shark movie, your film lives or dies by a shark. I think that's a fair comment to say.
Yeah.
And this one, it's clearly CGI. Even the dorsal fin, cutting through the water is CGI. And not very good CGI. Just as an aside as well, the one we covered a couple of weeks ago, Fear Below.
Yeah.
I saw like some behind the scenes photos from that film, and like all the underwater scenes were actually filmed on a green screen. Which
that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. But I was like, I just assumed it was in water.
No.
Now
Okay.
here, at least, they do actually have some proper underwater scenes. But the shark itself is very, very CGI. The film itself, it's kind of pointless. It really is. I mean, Asylum are known for their mockbusters.
Yeah.
Did they do this one because it's the 50th anniversary of Jaws? Is that what they're going for? I don't know. But
Yeah,
this is the sort of thing it does. So I should also point out this doesn't take place anywhere near the ocean. This takes place on a lake, which has a dam. Okay. Yeah. So goodness knows how the shark got there in the first place. Even like 20 years previously. The film, the plot involves the local mayor who, in order to have annual fishing competition, she instructs one of her minions to make a hole in the dam to let the fish in, because there's no fish in the lake. So the fish come into the lake, as well as the shark, obviously. And it starts sort of chomping on people. Yeah, so this is it's almost like an episode of Dawson's Creek with a shark.
Yeah.
But not as good as that is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't great at all. Sorry?
Dorsal Creek. As in like
Dorsal
a
Creek. Ka-ching. That would make a good film. But yeah, no, so this is, you got the drama of the guy coming back, and then there's a shark and he's going, oh my God, this is happening again, and all this sort of stuff. And there's, he's got to make amends. Make amends with his uncle, because his uncle is kind of responsible or irresponsible for his brother's death, because he was getting blind-eyed drunk on the beach instead of looking over the kids. It's that sort of thing, basically. If you've never seen a shark movie before, then yeah, it works. If you've never even heard of Jaws before, but those are big ifs.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I cannot recommend this at all. And on that basis, I'm giving this one a 4 out of 10. So there you go. If you're an Asylum completist, like our friend Dave Wayne, for example, I'm sure he's going to totally disagree with me. But for if you like your shark movies, I'd give this one a wide berth. So there you go. A 4 for Shark Warning, or Dorsal Creek, as Rich coined it. Go check it out. Our short shot this week is Logan the Wolf, a Wolverine fan film. Set in a desolate Viking world, this follows Logan as he navigates a hostile environment facing both old and new enemies. This is directed by Godfrey Reichardt, Rich, someone that you and I both admire. A prolific short filmmaker, fight choreographer, all sorts. We've seen loads of his shorts over the years. And I think this is probably one of his higher ones. The quality of this is very good. Decent location, decent score, very, very good action choreography going on in this one. Let's hear a little bit more about it. Over to you.
Yeah, so this was released over a year ago now. Taken us a while to cover it because I was originally holding it for our short shots. We're going to do like a special on lots of sort of martial arts action shorts, which unfortunately we haven't had a chance to do that for quite a long time. So this is long overdue. Really wanted to get it covered. It's racked up 5.6 million views. It's a brilliant 12-minute short from, like say, Godfrey Reichardt, who's a filmmaker who's like at the top tier of the action filmmakers that we follow. He does a lot of stuff on other things, but he's a fantastic short filmmaker, working with a regular crew of colleagues like Teddy Masson, who's also a filmmaker who's made things like Warlike, which we've really enjoyed, but he's cinematographer.
Big fan of that one.
including the Collector, which the lead guy in this, who was playing Logan, Maxime Ikoifer, he was in Reichardt's The Collector, which was fantastic, as well as, say, some other stuff. So good team. They're also working with a bunch of other people they've not worked with before. There's an excellent behind the scenes documentary. This is 12 minutes. There's about 15-minute. I think it's about 15-minute, 10 or 15-minute documentary where they talk about making of the film, and they're working with some people they've not worked with before, and everyone's doing it, on for free. It's a passion project kind of thing, and they were just kind of pulling it together, and it just kind of came about that Reichhardt wanted to do like a Viking short, and Maxime sort of sent him this picture of him as Wolverine. He said, "Well, what if we put those ideas together?" And I think it's done something that's what a good fan film should, which is like try and do something that isn't happening in the mainstream. You get a lot of fan films that are like the Spider-Man ones and stuff, which are basically just doing the same as what is in the mainstream, the same as what everyone's already used to. But this one is just completely reinventing the concept and saying, we're going to do something completely different with it. And it is a fight short, which a lot of Reichardt's films are, but it's topped and tailed with some dialogue scenes and some different encounters with other characters, especially, say, at the end, where we get another reimagined character come in. I think it's gone crazy on YouTube, not just the views, but there's loads of reaction videos. Everyone's been really impressed by it. God knows why Reichardt's not being snapped up as a feature. I don't know what's happening there, but so that's my 2 pence or whatever worth on that one. Steve, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I did actually. Like you say, it is. It's a fighting shot, but I think it's done really, really well. It just looks messy and dirty and how it should be. And the only thing that got me, right, and I'll be a stickler for this, is when the claws came out. Because they were adamantium claws, not the bone claws, which they should have been in that time period.
I thought they were the bone ones.
Now I'm gonna interject here because I felt that they looked too much like metal claws.
Yeah.
But the director is adamant that what they were trying to show was bone claws, and they tried their best to make them look bony. I don't think it works. I think that's one of the flaws. But he said he's very explicit in the making of. He says, I didn't want adamantium. This isn't adamantium. These are supposed to be bone claws. I think I've seen a bone claws variant in something else, but they do come out, and they've said they've tried to do the effect or whatever, but for me they look like blades. They do blades.
But apart from that, great. That's my only little quibble.
And it's I know, so I haven't mentioned this yet, but it's very violent. R-rated Wolverine kind of stuff, and people are impaled left, right, and centre. The faces are being torn off, entrails are being spilled out, and stuff. So this is not holding back, this one. So that's another thing that really took people by surprise. This isn't for kids.
No. God no.
Cool. Well, we do not score the shorts, but we do recommend you check them out. And you will find a link to this one in the footnotes below. And while you're there, please check out some of Godfrey's other work because it is pretty spectacular. Go check it out. Our DTV throwback this week is The Devil Conspiracy. A cult steals the Shroud of Turin for wicked purposes. Thanks, IMDb. That summed it up quite nicely. So we get the aforementioned heist kind of thing by this cult. We get a priest who gets injured or killed, and his body is then infused with the spirit of the Archangel Michael to try and stop this nefarious plot by this cult to try and free Lucifer, who's sort of chained in the netherworld. I really, really like this. I was really surprised by this film when I saw it last year, I think it was. It is just so bizarre to get a film that deals with this kind of thing, this sort of like, this religious apocalypse kind of thing, and just approach it with such gusto. It really does just sort of go for it. I mean, does it all make sense? God knows, but it's all there. There's nothing coy about this film at all. I just really, really enjoy it. It's very sort of pulpy, sort of demons and all sorts sort of going on, evil cults, people being sacrificed to monsters, all this. I thought, it's just great. I really, really like this one. Steve, what did you make of The Devil Conspiracy?
Yeah, like you say, it's batshit insane, but it's fun in a way. It's not. It kind of does take itself too seriously, but it's ridiculous in the same way. If you know what I mean, it's just
definitely,
it is bizarre,
Mm-hmm.
and then that ambiguous ending, which I kind of expected, something something along them lines.
Yeah.
Fit in, but I thought it was done really well. I mean, there's a bit about it's quite near the end where this like monster pops up and just like starts chopping heads off in the middle of this courtyard.
Yeah,
and I thought that was done really, really well. I thought it was just bizarre, but yeah, it really worked. And they did it well. I was surprised at the level of the effects. To be fair,
well, that's what I mean. Yeah, this is quite a decent sized budget put into this. It's got quite a large cast. It's got special effects sequences, stunts, all sorts going on. Yeah, great sort of design of there's that whole thing where the female protagonist is doing her sketches of the statues. That whole thing with the avenue of the statues, and that I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah.
There's another bit which I really enjoyed because it's just something. Again, it's almost like out of a Michael Crichton novel when there's that auction.
Yes.
Where it's like it's like taking eugenics to like the next level, and it's incredibly creepy, but brilliantly done. It was a really interesting detail. I thought.
Yeah, well, they did that well. To be fair.
Rich, did you get a chance to see this one?
Yes, absolutely. The a bit like with God's Soldier, it's kind of one of those films that you feel could have been a Christian movie, but is very quickly.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Obviously not a Christian movie. I have seen Christian movies that do things like this. So there was one called The Second Coming of Christ, which was more to do with like a plot involving bees or something. I don't know. That didn't really make a lot of sense.
That's the X-Files.
Yeah.
And then there was another one. I think it was it's known as Black Easter, but there's a few different titles, which was like time travel and stuff. But anyway, so this one
is that the one where they go back and kill Jesus?
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So this one is very reminiscent for me of a British film from 2001 called Revelation, which was mixed horror and thriller and stuff, and it was all about trying to clone Jesus and things like that. And this one is kind of similar. They're trying to do like it's based on taking the Turin shroud, trying to get the DNA and trying to resurrect Jesus, but indwell him with Satan, Lucifer,
the Antichrist, all that.
Yeah.
They're combining the sort of the Omen kind of stuff with all this other elements.
There's a bit of sort of Dan Brown and a bit of Michael Crichton.
They kind of move between the different plots. So one minute you're focusing on the priest who's become possessed, like by the archangel, and then he gets kind of trapped, and then you're following the the female protagonist who's been kidnapped, and she's supposed to be the carrier of the Antichrist, and they start focusing on her and doing more. And there's some really intense scenes with some of the stuff. And like you say, the like Steve was saying with that courtyard scene, there's some proper violence in here, and really well done makeup and visual effects. I think in the film, the whole film has a really good budget look and whatever. Even though the cast is it's basically a cast of unknowns, you do have James Bond in there. You've got some other one or two other familiar faces. There's I'll mention the professor. This is just an incidental because he's not like a well-known actor at that point, but the guy who's the professor at the beginning, because it's set in Italy, at least the part of it is. I think most of it's supposed to be set in Italy. The professor is played by Andrea Scarduzio, who was pretty much like a supporting sort of player until he was suddenly cast as the villain in the third Equalizer movie. So he's like he was in 1 minute he was appearing in Dead Reckoning as just like guy in airport, so one of the people who is Ethan Hunt, and they turn him around and it's not, because it's they're tricking the computer. The computers are tricking him and stuff. But in this one, he's only in that one scene, but he's in it. And Peter Mensah is another sort of well-known character actor. There's a few other people. But for the most part, it's a cast of unknowns kind of thing. So I'm not surprised that it was low-key direct-to-video kind of release, but it is a big quality, production. And what's interesting is it's a Czech film, so it's all made in English, American English cast and whatever, but it's all made in and produced by filmmakers in the Czech Republic. It's not got. I mean, it's a Czech film. Through and through, which really surprised me. I was thinking it must be American. It must be like a co-production, or it must be something like no. Comes up at the end, country, public country of production kind of thing. Czech, it's kind of the word. Yeah, it's quite distinctive because I've seen one or two Czech films before, but nothing that was sort of going for that kind of Hollywood kind of level, which I think this manages. I think it climbs just above, say, some of the, like I was saying, like the Hollywood kind of Christian conspiracy movies, like the Omega Code and all that sort of stuff. And I thought it was really very entertaining. There's so much going on. Speaking of Dead Reckoning, that professor being in Dead Reckoning, there's a car gag that was the same gag that was used in, I'm sure, loads of other filmmakers.
So which one of these supercars is mine? Yeah, that sort of thing, isn't it?
Kind of thing, and it's like, it's the little car.
It's the little one behind me. Yeah, the little runner.
Exactly the same gag. Decently budgeted, good CGI and makeup effects. That massacre sequence, although I think that's where the budget limitations kind of show, is that there's a lot they kind of cut away from, and they're not showing. So I think that they showed what they could afford to. They couldn't do the whole thing, but what you do see when they're able to show it is like pretty full on. Good quality. One of the producers and a few of the other people involved in the film, probably because it's made in the Czech Republic, were involved in The Crow and more recently Ballerina. So like one of the producers, or perhaps financiers. I think he's an executive producer, so he might have been involved in financing it. I think he was involved with Ballerina and The Crow, but there were also some other people, like camera operators and stunt people and stuff. I think were also involved in those films. So very high standard of film. James Faulkner brings a nice quality to it. He's not in it a huge deal, but it's good to see him. And the cast, cast of unknowns, I thought they carried it really well. Good stuff. Yeah, really, really, really good, pleasant surprise. I had been wanting to see it for a while, because since you were sort of singing its praises, Mike, and definitely lived that.
It's so it's on Amazon Prime, but it is now a rental. It used to be for free, but it's come off their free bit. So, but it is still quite cheap. I think it was like $1.99 to rent.
But if I can also interject on that point, I can give you the link to put in the footnotes, but it is available legitimately on YouTube from Samuel Goldwyn.
Oh, okay.
So there's a full version. film on YouTube. I think it's on one or two of the other free streamers, but if you you know, I'll we'll sort out the link. And
I'm sure. Yeah, we'll put it in the footnotes. But yeah, it's a pleasant surprise, an interesting find. I'd love to see something of its ilk in the future. But that is the end of this week's show. So thanks for listening. Thanks to the guys for getting through this marathon of films this week. It's been a very tough schedule for us to get this episode put together, but we managed it. Yeah.
Hey.
Okay, good on us. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and X and Blue Sky at the DTV Digest, as well as the short shots. But Rich puts together the top 10 or top 5, isn't it? We do, yeah. And you know, sort of makes note of all the films which are coming out, some of which we get to cover. But yeah, other than that, thank you for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.